Buenos días a todos. ¿Me pueden confirmar que puedes escuchar que me pueden escuchar bien? Vamos a empezar en unos minutos. Ok, vamos a empezar. Gracias a todos. Yo me llamo Adán. Soy ingeniero de Fortress Power. Ah, y aquí vamos a hablar un poco sobre los problemas que vemos ahora en Puerto Rico, pero también en otras partes, con el LFP10 y con el Schneider, sistemas Schneider. Voy a presentar en inglés porque mi español no es súper bueno. Si alguien no entiende, me pueden preguntar también en español y Mario o yo le podemos responder, pero si no entienden, sí, mándame un mensaje. ¿Ok? So I will continue in English because it's easier for me, and hopefully I can make more sense for you. So let's begin. So the outline. As you probably know, we have been in communications with some of you regarding systems with one Fortress Power LFP10 and one Schneider 6848, the XW Plus, the XW Pro. We've confirmed now that these systems do not work. They will not work. So the first part, I'll give an explanation. If anybody still is confused about the sizing and why it does not work. Next, we're going to talk about existing systems. What can we do for existing systems? How can we start them? And how can we make sure that the maintenance is correct? Then we'll go for talk about the future systems and see what we can do better for future systems. And we'll go into the Eflex, which is kind of what we want more people to start installing, and an overview about closed loop communication. Then we'll go into the warranty registration, the updated warranty registration, and what you can do to register, and a special promotion at the end for installers that is related to this issue. Again, please feel free to send your questions in anytime. Mario and I will watch and make sure we answer. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, sorry. So, summary. Basically, we know that the LFP10 and the XW series will not work together. I've confirmed that with Schneider. Schneider has had problems not just with Fortress Power, but with other battery manufacturers, and they agree that sizing is a big problem, and we need to make sure that everybody understands how to size battery systems. I know many of you have probably watched one of our webinars before, or maybe many of our webinars regarding sizing. I'm not going to go over that too much today. I think most of you know the presentation, but I just want to emphasize that if batteries that are incorrectly sized will always have problems. I mean, we have to make sure that they're correctly sized and also do our best to to make them work in that sense. So to fix existing systems that are already set up, the options are limited. The best option is to redesign the system. So you can either change the inverter size or change the battery size. Now that's the best thing we can do. For the future systems, the battery sizing has to be in accordance with the warranty. So I will go over that. And we are introducing the Eflex to replace the LFP10 in a lot of these applications with the Schneider. So here's an explanation of sizing the battery bank. I know many of you have already seen this, like I said, but I will go over it one more time because I think it's very important. The XW Plus inverter 6848 has a breaker of 250 amps, capacity of 6.8 kilowatts, and it's able to demand from the battery 136 or 140 amps. And then the surge is pretty high as well, 240 amps. Well, we won't look into the charge controller right now. We'll just look at the inverter. The battery, the LFP10, has a breaker of 150 amps, max discharging rate of 100 amps, right? And the surge is 180 amps. We're not going to look at all of these. We're just going to look at continuous power right now. So checking the system's maximum discharging current, because I think this is the problem that most of these systems have. So and we can go over the other ones if you want independently, but right now we're going to focus on continuous power. So here are the specs for the Schneider 6848. The maximum output charge current is 140 amps, right? So we can see that if you look at the technical specifications of the Schneider, it's 140 amps is what the charge current can demand from the battery. In addition, the overload or the max power from the inverter is 12 kilowatts. If we look at the LFP10 specifications, the max charge current is 80 amps. The max pulse current for 5 seconds is 180 amps. But generally, we go by the max discharge current continuous, which is 100 amps. Okay. So when we compare this 100 amp max discharge current to the max current of the Schneider of 140 amps, we can see that there's already going to be a problem, and I'll explain why. When we have to compare the continuous the ability of the battery, the continuous rating, to the inverter's continuous rating. So we saw that it was 136 or 140, and the battery's continuous rating is 100. So 2 LFP10s will have no problem. One will not have a problem. Will not be possible because 100 amps is not greater than 136. I won't spend too much time on this. I'm sure you've seen this before. We also have to make sure that the surge power is appropriately sized. One LFP10 cannot handle the surge amp of 240 of the inverter's 240 amp. Existing systems. So, sorry. Existing systems. So we have options to fix existing systems. One LFP10 or one XW6848. Those options are limited. The best solution is to redesign the system and size correctly. Obviously, either switch to the Eflex or add another LFP10 or get a smaller inverter. This is the only way we can guarantee the 10-year lifetime. Now, Jing will go over that a little bit more later. The reason is, if we have an inverter that is capable of pushing continuous current more than what the battery is capable of, we cannot guarantee the lifetime. No matter how small the loads are, we cannot guarantee the lifetime. If you have an existing system that is malfunctioning, you can limit your critical load panel under 5 kilowatts. Under 5 kilowatts means under 100 amps at 50 volts. So this, if your critical load panel is under 5 kilowatts, you'll have it'll be much easier on the battery. We can also check your critical loads and add a fast blow fuse that's less than 100 amps. So let's say your total amperage in your house is 30 amps. You can add a 50 or 60 or 70 amp fuse, and that way we can be sure that you'll never pull more than 100 amps. So this will protect the battery from surge, but you will blow the fuses pretty often. You will have to replace these fuses, but it's cheaper than having to fix the batteries. If your system is tripping the BMS on startup, you can pre-charge the capacitors in the inverter using a 100 ohm resistor. So this will slowly charge the capacitors in the inverter and reduce the surge current in the battery. This is another problem that we're seeing. So on a cold start, quote unquote, cold start, the problem is a brand new LFP10 and a brand new XW Pro, for example, the capacitors in the XW Pro have I think 20 or 25,000 microfarads. And when they're empty, they pull a lot of current from the battery. I confirmed this with Schneider. They pull more than 150 amps. So once you start pulling 150 amps from the battery, the BMS of the LFP10 will shut off. And that is why you'll see 4 volts. You'll go from 50 volts all the way down to 4 or 5. And that means that the BMS has been shut off. So to fix this, we can slowly charge the capacitors in the inverter using a 100 amp resistor. Now I'll go into this right now a little bit so you can see. I don't know why I keep turning on my camera. Okay, so existing systems, the fuse and resistor setup. So these are the two things that I recommend. I think we recommend for these existing systems that cannot be changed. Again, the best solution is to redesign the system and size it correctly. To temporarily fix an existing system, you can add a fuse. So less than 100 amp fuse, maybe a 90 or 80 amp fuse, fast blow class H will work on the positive terminal between the battery and the inverter. To get this pre-charge effect, you can use a 100 ohm resistor temporarily for the cold start. So what I mean by temporarily is basically you're going to use alligator clips to connect the negative side of the fortress to the resistor, and then resistor to the inverter lead. And this will allow a very low amount of current to start first, maybe 5 amps, probably less than 4 amps. And you do this for about a minute, and that will charge the capacitors in the inverter slowly and enough for that, so that the battery does not get overwhelmed when you try to start the inverter. If this doesn't make sense to anyone, please contact me. I can explain it further. But this is another option. And then you have to be clear that you take off the resistor after you're done. So this is just temporary for starting, right? Our Eflex batteries, the eVault batteries, all have pre-charge resistors embedded in the system. So this is why you don't need to do that with those batteries. But these batteries, the BMS is more simple. It's more, it doesn't have this resistor built in. So this is also an option. Both the fuse and the resistor are very cheap. The fuse is probably $15, $20. The resistor is probably less than $5. So they're readily available. And last thing we need to make sure is that the parameters are correct on your Schneider. I see a lot of calls from customers. They have problems with their LFP10 and their Schneider system, and already the sizing is not working, and they're upset. But in addition, the parameters are not set correctly. So we have to make sure the systems already are very fragile. If we don't set the parameters correctly, they're not going to work. They're just going to fall apart very quickly. So here are the list of warranty parameters from the website. From the warranty. In general, we're going to go with the left. If we're going to make these LFP10s and Schneider systems, 6848 systems work, we have to make sure that they're very gentle on the battery. Okay. The low battery cutoff voltage should be around 50 or 51, something like that, 50.7. The bulk and absorb should be low, 54.4, around there. Recharge voltage, 52. No equalization. The max charge current should be low. I would say 70 amps per battery. Max discharge current, I would say lower, probably 80 amps per battery, just to make sure that there are no spikes and no problems with the BMS. Okay. And if you've seen the warranty letter, this is the sizing, the chart that we have here. The warranty is available on fortresspower.com. Please look at it prior to sizing your system. This chart is will help, I think. This chart is the minimum number of batteries needed per inverter. Okay, and this chart is only for open loop communications. We will have a separate. I will go over open and closed loop next slide, but this is only for the open loop communications, which most systems are. If you look at the 6848 and the XW Plus and the XW Pro, the minimum number of LFP10s is 2, for exactly the same reasons that I explained before, the sizing calculations. And you'll see that the minimum number of Eflexes is 3. Now, this is true for open loop communications because of the calculations that we made before. But with closed loop communication, the minimum number of Eflexes per XW Pro and XW Plus is 2. Now I'll explain why here. Basically, the way it works is your batteries are the same, they're connected to a bus bar, but the main difference is, in case we haven't explained it yet, the batteries communicate state of charge information directly to the inverter, directly to the gateway. So you're going to need this Schneider gateway that connects to your inverter. And this has many advantages, right? The battery is constantly communicating to the gateway, which is communicating via ZAM bus with a Schneider ZAM bus to the inverter. This will improve efficiency, but not only that, it will make sure that the inverter turns off if the batteries are in any danger. The battery can tell the inverter, this is working, this is not working. It's much more accurate. Everything that you need to connect to the Schneider is included in the Eflex, in the box, the pinout converter, the cable, the terminator. The only thing that's not included is the Schneider gateway, which is another accessory you have to get. So, highly recommend everyone look at the LFP, the Eflex, as 2 Eflexes as a solution or a replacement for the LFP10 if you have to put a Schneider XW Pro or XW Plus. You know, you could also, for these systems that are, if you need to have an LFP10, you could also put, you'll see here, you could also put a 4048. For a 4048, that's an appropriate size for an LFP10. But a 5548 or 6848 are too big to actually work with an LFP10. So now I think, Jing, do we have you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, everyone. I just want to introduce Jing, our CEO, and she's going to go over a little bit, some information we have for the Eflexes.
Okay, good. So, Rob, you can just keep your presentation here. That'd be great. Okay, if you
Sure.
can just help me to, guide through the few slides. Good.
Sure.
Well, first of all, everybody, it's good to see you guys here. I know it's a very busy time of year. Really appreciate you take time to go through the slides here with us. And we, with our best intention, we want to just make sure your system working properly. That's why we're having this webinar here. We're also going to talk about this new product Eflex. After Eflex, I will also talk about how to register warranty for the existing system that you installed with one LFP10 and one XW Plus or XW Pro. Okay. So the Eflex 5.4 is a very exciting product. So we have the relay based BMS with a digital processor. So the BMS is very powerful. It allows fast charging, discharging. It communicates with inverters. It can communicate between the batteries as well. It deploy prismatic cell, which I have a slide later on to show you the differences between the prismatic cell, cylindrical, and pouch cell. Now, inside of the Eflex is 16 battery packs. They are lined in serial together, okay? And because of simplicity, right? You have only 16 and you line them together. It allows us to monitoring each cell voltage, current, temperature. You might see competitors' batteries that have a lot of individual smaller cell, cylindrical cell, and that wired together very complicated, and the complication can also lead failures. That's why we choose the simplest way of to wire this battery together. It comes with IP65 rated aluminum enclosure, which is very, very important for salt water, against the salt water corrosion, especially in the tropical weather. It can stack up 15 units to get a total energy output of 80 kilowatt hour. You can store on the wall, or you can let it sit on the floor, and it comes with side mount, so you can touch to the wall, or you can put a server rack, 24-inch server rack. Some smaller rack you can put a 3. If you want to do big, you can go up to 10 in one big server rack. The format we designed not just for renewable energy for solar application, but also for telecom, the railway, marine RV. So this is a product that really going to accomplish many different applications. Along emphasize the benefits of the closed loop communication with inverters. Currently, the batteries communicates with Schneider XW Pro and a SOARC inverter, and Alon and his teams working on integrating with SMA, Vectral, and also Outback Skybox in the future as well. We also built heat sink that's going to improve the thermal performance very well. Now, you may ask why we don't have them in LP5 or 10 on eVolts, because the Eflex has very high IP rating, high IP65. So if you operate that battery, in a high temperature environment, then it's going to generate heat. So and it has a valve that will release that heat gas out on a regular basis to cool down the systems. That's why for the Eflex 5.4, because of high IP rating, we built an integrated heat sink to improve the thermal performance, which is also, very important for longevity of the battery. Next slides, please. Hello? Okay, looks like we have some communication issue here, but no worry, I can actually show my screen here, okay? Just give me 1 second. Okay, so you guys see my screen, right? Good. Now, the Eflex, like I mentioned, we use the prismatic cell. You can see there's three different cell types here: prismatic, pouch, and cylindrical. We tested them, and prismatic cell has the most benefits. Durability, very durable, high power density, very good thermal stability, and that's also leads to longevity. And typically prismatic cells are big, come with a more amp hour capacity. That's why you'll be able to use less cell and make the manufacturing process much simple, and also allows fast charging, discharging. So we focus on prismatic cell. We use the digital process based BMS. There's a lot of benefits goes with that. And it again, this BMS is also, use the automotive standard. Okay, now if you imagine your car, right, you goes in, you turn on, you fire up, so it has a very high rush current. And also, if you live in the Northeast, like we're here in winter, it gets really cold. So if you turn on that battery, it adds a lot of stress. So the BMS needs to be so robust to be able to handle that. A lot of competitors use MOSFET-based BMS, okay? It's cheaper, costs less, that's why they use it. But the problem is it cannot handle the high rush current. And then, of course, if you look at the BMS specs, the maximum charging, discharging rates also is less. The digital process-based with a relay, it really can handle, large charging, discharging current. 16 cells inside, like I mentioned, they will all be monitoring the voltage, the current, and the temperature. If there's one cell has a problem, it will give us notification, so we know what's going on. There's a problem, it helps us to diagnosis. So you don't have to go outside to the sites to look into it. We're building an online portal. In the future, this can be, monitored online. The battery packs, when you line them together in parallel, they are communicating with each other. And that's to make sure they all work on the same state of charge. If issues happen, and they can protect one or two in the batteries, okay? By having that communication is important. It's especially if you build a big systems. It can do closed loop communication with inverters, like Alain mentioned, send the information. The BMS can send information to the inverter based on, the charging environment. It can make sure the batteries are well protected, and also make sure it, it adjusts the charging rates as well. Depends on, temperature maybe, or some other factors. It comes with a Wi-Fi, so it can streamline the data out of the batteries, to other devices. For example, maybe one day the Amazon Echo can receive the data from the energy storage. If they're capable of doing that, the Eflex are able to, stream the data to that. Of course, that will require, communication established, but the devices already are capable of doing that, okay? And that's called Internet of Things, which is, it's coming more and more popular for home automation. If you have one LFP10 paired with a Schneider XW Plus or XW Pro, we are going to send you guys a system registration form with some basic system information, like a PV size, such as, low panel size, the parameter you set up in the inverter, and along with some installation pictures, so we can verify this, you set up the system correctly. And what we're going to do, again, like Alain mentioned earlier, that the safest way to prevent issues have two of LFP10, but I understand some customer, your customer may not have budget, so they have to stick with the one LFP10 they have. Now, we're going to provide, if for some reasons shuts the BMS and the BMS failed, we will provide a free BMS at the first occurrence. For the future events, then we will charge, the BMS at cost. It's around, $200. And we can train you to replace it. And if you not feel comfortable of doing that, your distribution partners or our distribution partners that we have, they will be able to replace the BMS for you, okay? But of course, they're going to charge you for replacing the BMS. But again, we can certainly, train you as well. We have also videos we can show you. We can do, web trainings. And when the pandemic goes away, we will be back to the island again. We can invite you to the, on-site training as well, okay? For any systems installed after this today, if you still hook up one LFP10 with a Schneider XW Pro, XW Plus inverter, then we will not honor warranty. However, we are offering a special promotion on the Eflex. When you go to your distributors inquiring the cost, it will be very similar cost and like one LP10. We want to make this transition easy for our partners in the island. So please contact your distributor and ask for the Eflex pricing. We also offer promotion on the eBoat as well. Okay, so please contact your distribution partner. We want to help you to install more systems in the busy season, and also make sure you the transition from one FP10 to the eVolts as smooth, as easy as possible for you guys. That's why we come up with this special promotion for our authorized installers in Puerto Rico. So here are contact information. We do have Mario, who actually speaks Spanish. Unfortunately, he got stuck in Mexico. He is that's why he can't attend the webinar here. But again, here's his contact information, his email here. And of course, you can also send email to our tech support at fortresspower.com, or give us a call in our main line. We'll make sure that we answer your phone calls and solve any issues that you have. So any of you have questions, please, I'm going to pull out the question section. So we want to make sure that we answer all the questions that you guys, have. And if there's any concern, please call us here, and we can address the issues, okay, on a one-to-one basis. Okay, I do see that Mario, if you want to, introduce yourself. I just saw that you were able to connect now. If you want to introduce yourself, please go ahead, do so.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Mario Castillo, yo soy el representante para América Latina de Fortress Power. Si por favor me escuchan, por favor me confirman. Estamos aquí para ayudarles y bueno, yo sé que todos están pasando un poco aprietos con el tema del cambio de las baterías, pero bueno, les vamos a ayudar a todos, vamos a ayudarles con los cambios, con el soporte técnico y todo lo que necesiten. No duden en contactarme, mi email ya se los dieron, si no es ventas@fortresspower.com.
Okay, I don't see questions here. Maybe we can just, if there's yes, Mario, we can hear you. No problem. And I'm seeing if if we are getting questions coming here. Okay. I will make sure you guys know where you can type the question. There's a chat function where you can, type your questions, and we will, go through that. And again, we really appreciate your business, and we want to be more proactive. That's why we have this training section here. Make sure that you understand that what's the concern with us for configuration, and also let you know that we offer the Eflex to you guys to help that transition. Okay, well, it looks like there's no question, but again, if question come up, feel free to contact us, and we will make sure we get back to you, because we certainly really appreciate your business, and we'll do as much as we can to support your business. Okay, everyone, thank you so much, and yeah, hopefully, you know, we can come back to Ireland soon and meet, you know, you again. Look forward to that. And in the meanwhile, stay safe and take care of yourself and your family, okay? Thank you. Bye.